Hello, everyone. Welcome back for yet another episode of Tuesday Talks with Saloni. Today, we have with us a very special guest. Welcome, Dr. Jonathon Quest. He is extremely passionate about chess and actually looks at chess from various angles. First being, he has played chess, he's also been a tournament director, and interestingly, he has created the first minor in chess at Webster University in the US. To add to that, he also holds a doctorate in education. So he comes with amazing amount of expertise. Welcome, Dr. Quest.
Yeah, thank you so much, Saloni. I'm really grateful to be here.
Of course, I think the viewers today will learn a lot from your experience, especially from the research angle in chess. So I would just love to dive into that almost immediately. What are your thoughts on research in chess, especially from the psychological perspective?
It's a great question. I think there could be more research, definitely now on chess and psychology. If we take a step back and look at where chess research really began, it really was in the field of psychology, specifically,
Mhm.
cognitive sciences and looking at, intelligence of masters. But that's changed over the past 100 years, where now we're looking at impact on adults and children, and how chess can be a tool to cognitively develop them. But I think now, as the field is moving away from justifying chess and academic programming for children through looking at academic impact of
Mhm.
chess learning in the school day, we can start to explore what does chess and well-being have in common.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely an area that can grow, and I also don't think there's enough research on uh, chess and psychology specifically as a real rehabilitation tool,
Mhm.
whether that's for behavior modification in adults, or um, you know um, or even substance abuse, or just in general just community well-being, and what sort of chess programming has on that.
Yeah. Thank you for enlightening us on that front because when one thinks of chess, they always almost think of, the technical skills and how can I get better in the game? How can I play this tournament well? And so on and so forth, which is great as a competitor. But, the way you have chosen to approach chess apart from being a competitor is so unique. How do you work with chess players in your capacity in terms of, the engagement you have with children, their parents, and the educational process behind it?
Yeah, specifically for children, it's very interesting. Everybody has a unique background, or in education, we'd say like funds of knowledge, right? So
Mhm.
we all, come to a lesson, or come to a learning environment where our backgrounds, our relationships, the knowledge that we have, doesn't really put us on an equal footing, with others. And so, me personally, when I work with children, that first step usually, in working with the adults, and having those conversations about, what can chess do for my child. Um, there's a lot of different answers. There's the, of course, the business answers of chess is great and it does all these wonderful things based on research. Um, but really, the question that's being asked is, how's my child going to develop through this
Mm.
outside of just learning how to play chess better? And I've seen both sets of parents have these different ideologies of what it actually means to improve in
Mhm.
chess, and what sort of benefits are there. So you have those who are more focused on the competitive side, and then you have those who are like, well, I don't know if my child's ever going to become a world champion, but I would like for them to make some friends and, um, have a good peer community, whether it's in their school or at a local club. So the conversations I typically have with the parents in this case usually actually is focused on everything outside of chess.
Hmm.
We can get into where their child is at, and we can do that through assessing their games and asking questions. But um, from what I've seen, especially in chess, is the professional route in the long term is very difficult for children to achieve, or even adults from a competitive aspect. The questions that I have for them are focused on what sort of support do you have, for your child? Like, is this something where they're doing this every day? Is it are they interacting with friends? Do they have a club that they're able to attend? Because some of these other components are what I think what sets the child up for success in the
Hmm.
long run. How sustainable is chess as this hobby or this sport for them, to maximize how much they can get out of it? And usually in those conversations, even though it begins with the parents looking for, say, a chess coach for
Yeah.
their child, I usually end up coaching the adults, the parents, instead, or at least primarily, because often what I hear from the parents is, "Hey, my child is now beating me in chess. They're 4 years old. I don't know what to do. They're smarter than me." Uh, and that initial conversation, like, that has to be addressed very quickly, because children are capable, but adults are very capable as well. And in the process of it, as they're looking to exchange their relationship or their role with their child with a coach or a stranger or somebody who just plays chess better, I
Hmm.
also may not be the best fit as a coach or as
Yeah.
a person with their child. And the question that brings me to is, well, if you were better at chess, would you still want to play with your child and help them get better,
Yeah.
to then establish that longer term relationship in chess? And usually the answer is, of course. And then what ends up happening over time is usually I end up coaching the whole family, or in many cases, the parent ends up learning enough to then stretch out a longer period of time before their child may actually need a chess coach. But I think that's a very unique angle of looking at the coaching and talking about psychology, because um, we use chess as a metaphor, for a
Hmm.
lot of things in life, where we say, chess is like life, and then, insert any sort of metaphor after that. But the game is about people. And
Yeah.
even though we can study alone and we can play alone, at the end of the day, it still involves others. And when we talk about chess and well-being and life skill development or personal development, it still comes back to relationships, whether it's with yourself or with a parent, or a child. So my perspective might be a little bit different on the coaching side, but I think that's an area of like chess and psychology that could also maybe be explored as well, maybe even from a research standpoint of the relationship that parents and children have,
Yeah.
regarding the game. But
I think that's so unique because you're stepping away from the competitive angle and actually looking at how chess can be used in the sense of life skills development or supporting the child in their growth as a person and not just as a chess player.
yeah,
Because building upon the example that you said that, oh, my 4-year-old kid is beating me at chess, they're smart. Well, they're smart in chess, maybe, but what about other aspects of their life where there's so much more to grow? I think that's really fantastic how you're also tying into the well-being aspect and how we say the holistic person, the holistic care that we're looking at. How would you say has that evolved over time in your understanding, especially as you were pursuing your doctorate in education?
yeah. I'm trying to think of how I can package this into a little bit shorter of an answer. So I'll just start briefly with where chess and I became acquainted.
Hmm.
So I knew what chess was very early on.
Hmm.
However, my perspective of what chess was something that was, I felt, intellectually out of reach. Like, I felt like I wasn't smart enough as a child to be able to learn how to play. And then I had some like neighborhood, kids who would play in their tree house, and I wasn't invited to play. And
Yeah.
so there was all these different dynamics that were happening. And I was reintroduced to chess in fourth grade by a friend who, brought a board game at the, end of the school year when you have a party day. And I got to play on a Harry Potter chess wizard set. And, that experience really transported me from everything that was going on in my life at that time,
Mm-hmm.
at home, uh, socially as well. And I remember that, I won my games, but and I put maybe quotes around that because it's like kids, that sometimes they think they won and it was stalemate. But um, chess then eluded me for another 5 or 6 years. So I got once again in a relationship with chess through another friend in high school. This was around ninth or 10th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I didn't remember anything about how to play. And then I quickly realized I was terrible. It wasn't something that I could just, play and start winning. So I had this bit of identity, maybe crisis, where um, I'll put it simply this way: I probably lost well over 1,000 games for about a year, and my friend and I, we would play on the bus, with a magnetic set. The pieces would fall everywhere, and we'd play at lunch. We'd play before class. We'd start to play in the hallways, talking about the moves between class. And I had initially, going back to the relationship, I had initially just this pure desire to win.
Mm.
And what's funny is I feel like I didn't get any closer in that sort of pursuit to winning. I was just finding new ways to lose
Yeah.
essentially in every game. And then I started teaching others. And maybe, I'm a better teacher than player because I taught them how to beat me and I still couldn't beat new players who I was teaching. So um, it took about, I think, a year and a half where that changed for me, where I got my first draw and then I got my first win.
Mm.
But in the process of that, what changed for me in the relationship was that now it wasn't just about me playing my friend and winning. We had a club. We had, some days upwards of 50
Mm.
students, other days maybe we had four or five.
Yeah.
But it then became about the community, the club that we were developing, the bonds we were making, the relationships with students in different cliques, different backgrounds, whether it's sports versus non-sport students. And it was also interesting too, because, it's like after chess club ended, it's like everybody went back to their own social circles, but
Yeah.
chess club was like this, proving ground or a great equalizer, as they say, like water is,
Yeah.
for people in swimming. So, so my relationship went from being this self sort of journey and in some aspect even a realm to escape to
Mm.
and playing chess to then wow, this is impacting a lot of people in a lot of ways. Where do we go with this? And so after high school, I didn't realize college chess was a thing for a couple of years. I just knew that I wanted to pursue it,
Mm-hmm.
educationally. And then I realized, oh, wait, there is no degree in chess.
Yeah.
So now what do I do? And there's a lot to that journey, but bringing it up to, my doctorate degree, um, I had I had the idea, but it's not unique. Many other people have had the idea of chess in higher education. Courses have been around since the 70s in the
Mm-hmm.
US, so much longer, I think, than in some other countries. And it got to the question of, why does this just not exist?
Mm.
And then, okay, well, if it existed, what would it look like? How would it be developed? Um, because obviously I won't be able to take it if I
Yeah.
end up developing this, but others will. And what sort of professional opportunities are there after said degree is completed? Well, in the process of all that, between my bachelor's and my doctorate, I started to explore, okay, who would I need to be in order to um, have the skill sets to develop like
Mm.
this? What sort of background do I need? And kind of maybe in chess, we're like looking at an end game and saying, okay, what resources do we need, to be able to achieve this outcome? And so I started getting involved with curriculum development and accreditation, and really just getting very passionate about other people in
Yeah.
chess,
Yeah.
in that process. And then developing chess skills, tournament directing, organizing, business building, public speaking, so forth.
Mm.
And then finally, when the time came during my doctorate to create this, I was asked by Susan Polgar, who was the head coach at the time at Webster University, and the department chair of teacher ed, Dr. Rodney. They were like, "Hey, we have an education background. Susan's got a chess background, but we don't know how to actually go about
Mm.
designing this. This is not our specialty."
Right.
And so they're like, "Can you build a degree?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I've been waiting for this for the past 7 years." And of course, I go home and I'm like, I don't know how to build a chess degree. I know
Yeah.
how to write curriculum. I can write classes. I can, do all that. So I had to kind of go back to what I had learned over those 7 to 10 years prior, and piece together something that I thought would be beneficial for professional development
Mhm.
for students in higher ed, to give them maybe the best chance of actually having a profession in
Mhm.
chess, whatever that is. Um, but then also recognizing the challenges that higher education poses, between culture and curriculum requirements, and uh, a lot of different stakeholders in the process. So no longer is it just me and my vision and what I
Yeah.
think the world of chess needs, but rather it's also what's practical and what's also revenue driving.
Mm.
So there's a lot to it, but that's the short story,
Yeah.
uh, between then and now.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking on this wonderful journey. For all of us, it was amazing to know where you started, how it led you to have all these experiences, which eventually led to the creation of this minor degree in chess at Webster University. I think that's pretty cool. A lot of the people watching might not know that such a thing exists. So I think this is also a great informational point for them to learn from this. Speaking more about education and chess being tied together, FIDE has also taken many initiatives in this front, and you recently actually visited India for something similar. Would you like to share with us about that?
Yeah. So I can't speak on behalf of the FIDE Chess and Education Commission, but
Uh-huh.
that development of the commission really stems back to some work that happened in Armenia. There's a Chess Research Institute out there, and
Mhm.
between them and FIDE, there was a very big push on, if we can't get chess into the K through 12 classroom as a national curriculum in a lot of places, because it's a crowded curriculum. It's kind of
Yeah.
hard to justify why chess over math or science, or reading.
Yeah.
Then can we use chess as a way to teach those other
Mm.
subjects? So the commission, Chess and Education Commission, is focused on looking at how chess can be leveraged to teach other subjects, but then also 21st century skills and life skills as well. So there's a lot to the package. As we're talking about, what are the things that chess offers beyond competency and mastery of play,
Yeah.
which in itself is very important for a lot of different reasons. But so we have, the commission. I had the opportunity to speak in India about chess and higher education, and sort of my role in trying to ensure that the investment that all my colleagues are making across the world, whether it's Argentina, Kenya, Germany, Singapore, India, Uzbekistan, that all this scholastic efforts and hundreds of millions of dollars,
Mhm.
and time, we're talking around 10 years, for some of these
Yeah.
students who are experiencing chess in K through 12. How do we get a return on investment of that? And in part, on one hand, um, the children will benefit
Mhm.
from chess learning, and that's a whole discussion of what those benefits are. But I'm not so sure that we see it in our field professionally, the
Mhm.
return on that investment. Um, there's a very big drop off after K through 12, and probably, and most importantly, is because of the professional landscape that might be missing. And so, part of my question with, not just FIDE's Chess and Education Commission, but just chess and education, or chess education as a whole, is, what is chess education as a discipline? And I think somewhere it involves those things we talked about: life skills, 21st
Yeah.
century, but also competency of play,
Mm.
tournament directing, organizing. We can go down the list of different things that need to be developed, I think, in chess players. Uh, and can we bridge that gap after K through 12, and then that eventual return of some of them, once they're older as adults? Can we bridge that gap by incorporating professional development in the process? And so instead of just looking at chess and education as a K through 12 experience for children, we should also be asking, well, what is chess in higher education?
Yeah.
And maybe even more importantly around that is, are universities, or any sort of collegiate institution, is this the actual solution that the field needs? Or is this the medium that this professional development and training needs to happen? Or,
Mhm.
is there a market for businesses to come in and do consulting and coaching, in this space to help develop them?
Yeah.
But then it comes back to, what sort of professional opportunities are there? Why would you, do that? And
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about, people who volunteer in
Mhm.
chess, but I'm equally passionate about them being recognized and paid for, their expertise and time, especially when they're sacrificing time with family and so many other things to
Yeah.
give back. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is a fantastic initiative, and thanks for speaking more about, the intention behind it and how that could potentially lead to chess as a field to grow even more. And how they are now, it's like an ecosystem that we're trying to create, right? On one hand, when you mentioned that, okay, with your education and your capacity, you're trying to dive into the lifestyle, life skills, and overall well-being of a child. Similarly, from the sports psychology angle, I'm looking more so on the performance side, like how can the performance skills that are built as a result of them being a chess player be applied to, say, when they go and choose some other career, or they choose even like on a day-to-day basis, something as similar as, okay, I have to go give a PowerPoint presentation in my class. That is a performance. So how are you then going to use the sports psychology skills you learned in as a chess player going to apply there? So it's really about creating that holistic kind of situation where no matter how you choose to move forward, the skills you learn stay with you on a longer term.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of this conversation, right? Like the angle I'm talking about is coming from a professional side of, can we build this ecosystem where we can develop enough adults and leverage, all of this chess experience and volunteerism, and really build the ecosystem that we need in order to grow the field. But, like you're saying, equally important, and I think something not to, for people not to forget, who's listening, is that um, chess is one tool of many, out
Yeah,
there, whether it's hobbies or activities or sports. Um, and equally important, to competency, of play, is, how can we leverage what we're getting out of chess
mm,
into, our individual lives, and then from there, can we multiply that, through other people, with the work
yeah,
that we do? So I'm very interested, with those who, may be watching this, that uh, what about chess are they actually passionate about? Is it the play? Is play part of it? Or, are there other angles? And maybe how are they using what they're learning from chess and then applying it, right? Like
yeah.
in other domains. But um, it is interesting when we talk about the transference of skills from one domain to another, and what transfers and maybe what doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much on that. Yeah, I think the transference, that's really the key word I would take from it. And so would, the other people who are watching this. As we're concluding our conversation today, there's one question that I think would benefit the viewers a lot, especially the parents and the coaches who are watching this. With your background, education, and experiences, what are some tips or suggestions you would, recommend when they are working with their child or their student in terms of growth in chess?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like I have to put a parent hat on, although, I'm not a parent, but I've worked with, thousands of
Yeah.
kids, and families. Um, Going back to research a little bit, I think research, definitely helps, identify things. My master's research, which I'm, working on a book right now, was focused on growth mindset, but looking at the experience of a child who is playing. And what I've found with parents, especially those who don't play competitively,
Hmm.
they may not understand the psychological toll that a simple game can have, on any individual. I almost think it may be worse on adults than children in some capacity. But um, so the research was looking at an after school program, and it was focused on the well being of the children who are playing the game of chess, but more specifically, how does loss impact well-being, or the psycho-emotional status of a
Hmm.
child.
Hmm.
I talked about losing well over 1,000 games. It's probably a record my friend will always hold over my head. um, but chess, somewhere between my background and family environment and social dynamics, for one reason or another, and I maybe can't explain it fully, but I was able to stay in that realm of consistently losing.
Hmm.
And maybe that's me putting those reps in, but I've seen very often, children play and then they lose, and then that's it, they're done.
Yeah.
And so the research that I looked at was to understand, right, what was the impact of loss. And so I did some cognitive interviewing before and after, before, during, and after the game
Hmm.
for each child. And they, it was the loss they experienced, I mean, was significant in the sense of it was Stockfish playing them, even though they thought it was me.
Yeah.
But the the students who were part of the study, there was about 17 students, and 9 of them were female, 8 were male. And there was a complete perspective difference between the males and the females. And now this may be tied to culture, this may be tied to other elements of being in a program, but the males had identified that their participation in the chess game with me was enough for them to expect to win.
Mm.
Whereas all the females in the study noted that they expected to lose because of my skill level. And I had played with, all these children and coached them with another coach
Hmm.
for, at this time, I think it was about 6 months. So, none of the children had beaten me during that time.
Mm.
But it was still, even with a small sample size of 17, it was still kind of a moment of like, whoa, like what does this actually mean? And
Yeah.
what sort of impact does this have? And then of course, coming back to what about the parents, right? Like, what do parents think their children are experiencing? And I would honestly say I don't think they truly know unless they too are also competing and playing chess from a competitive standpoint.
Mm.
I know you understand as a master player and
Yeah.
with a lot of competitive experience that it's not easy
Oh,
at
definitely.
all. It's not something you can walk into and you're good, despite Queen's Gambit, suggesting otherwise.
Yeah.
That you don't need to study and you can get good. But so, as far as any tips or anything, I mean, the first tip would be is, if you're a parent or a teacher and you've got children, who play chess, I would definitely say, walk the walk. Like, try it out, try to experience what that is for yourself. I think to get a better understanding of what they may be experiencing. But then, secondly, that maybe equally important, of course, post trauma, from loss, some sort of care is, I think, important, but also that, um, asking yourself as the adult in that
Mm,
scenario or relationship, why are you having them play?
mm,
And if the end goal is, I want them to have a scholarship and go to, university for chess, it's not probably going to work out. But if the end goal is, hey, I would like for them to develop cognitively, I would like for them to step into the arena, as a chess combatant and experience that. I want them to develop, some, social, connections through chess. I think that's kind of where the magic of chess lies, at least from the adult who's introducing chess, and for the children is to really think about what they're getting out of it for the growth. And if you don't know, try to go explore it.
mm.
You can, research aside, I mean, you can sit there and make videos with your child, right? And kind of look back on it and say, hey, like, oh my gosh, like they had this like behavioral emotional shift in the middle of the game, me
Yeah.
playing with them that I didn't see, or even just talking with them. But I think there's an expectation, a very heavy one, at least in competitive chess, on from parents to children or coaches, for children, that they're expected to win, and they're expected to win more than they're expected to lose. Um, and that's usually not the case. I think, one example, maybe Joshua Waitskin,
Mhm.
international master. You know, um, for those who maybe don't know, go check out, Searching for Bobby Fischer. But I think he has more losses than wins, like on his record, and like most chess players who are masters actually do as well.
Yeah.
So, whatever it means, to the adult in this case who's introducing chess to the child and pushing them to improve, I would say, take a step back, explore it for yourself, and then have those conversations like with your child and really explore it with them rather than kind of have this said or even unsaid expectation of winning, um, that may be doing more harm than good,
Yeah.
in the long run.
Yeah, I think this is wonderful. Especially, I love the, walk the walk suggestion. My dad was a chess player, so I benefited a lot while talking to him because I understood that, okay, he knows what it is to be, play chess. He didn't compete as actively, but I imagine that if, he would have gone in a tournament and then experienced the climate, maybe our conversations would have been different. It is less to do with, getting better at chess and, oh, like if I can do that, my child would be inspired. It's more so putting yourself in their shoes and experiencing the climate as is when you're competing.
Yeah.
Because I don't think people really grasp sitting in a pin drop silence kind of room and playing for hours and experiencing the whole
Yeah.
climate of a competitive spirit. So, yeah, I think that is awesome. And having that debrief later instead of just asking in terms of the expectations, but thinking more so, oh, what went well? What could be different?
Yeah.
Just exploring on those fronts.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, anything competitive, or even maybe not even competitive, right? But when you're involved in anything that has to do with other people, especially when you're surrounded. We all get the, what's it called? I think it's like the spotlight effect,
Yeah.
where we think everybody's watching us. Well, usually in chess, if you've got a good game or you're a good player, like everybody is actually watching you.
Yeah.
Um, but I can tell you, there's been so many times, even, when was like a 1400 player, and you get 10 or 15 people in a tournament, right? It's this big open venue. Everybody's playing chess. And then all of a sudden, people are surrounding your chessboard and making faces, or, distracting you, or it's it's a very it's a very psycho-emotional experience, and I feel like, for if anybody has experienced stage fright,
Yeah,
which most people do have stage fright. It's that experience, but now not only are you expected to perform, but you have to perform at a very high level in this case, and then that game is going to follow you and haunt you for the rest of your career. It's an experience, like you were saying, where unless somebody has been in those shoes as well, it's very hard to um, understand what that's like. But I don't want that to be like a negative connotation
of
of
course. Yeah.
it's this big scary thing. It really isn't. And part of that, coming back to the psychology side, is um, preparing yourself, right? Competency builds confidence, first and foremost. And it even though chess gets harder as you get better, in a lot of ways, I do think the experience of sitting down, right, and the environment and being able to play, the more you do it, the easier it gets. And that's
Yeah.
anything. That's anything in life.
Thank you so much, Dr. Quest. I think people listening to this are going to benefit tremendously, especially parents listening. I'm sure I'm going to ask my father to go and play in a tournament now. Because, hey, if you want to talk chess to me, maybe go experience a tournament, and more so from an experiential point of view. But thank you so much for your time and, everything that you bring for the game of chess. We are very grateful for that because you're doing something very unique, and I think people should know more about what it is that you do.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. And yeah, I'm really excited about mind over moves and the work that you're doing with psychology and chess for both players and coaches.
Thank you so much, Dr. Quest. Thanks everyone for watching, and stay tuned for yet another episode next Tuesday. Till then, take care.